Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we are going on an endeavor. I am going to rank all of my Chanel blushes. But before we go any further, let's take a second to grab our iced coffee or a hot coffee. Let's take a sip and let's get started. As many of you know, I now have an online beauty consulting service, which is where you get to talk to me one-on-one through video chat and you get my undivided attention. Whether you want to talk about a new makeup item you have purchased and are not quite sure how to use, or you're not certain how to incorporate it into your routine, you get to just talk to me and chat and ask me beauty questions. So if you want to make an appointment, click the link in the description box down below. All right, I have all of these blushes here. Now, I'm not certain if this ranking my Chanel blushes has been done before on YouTube. Perhaps it has. I think Michelle Wong did something similar to this. Anyway, I'm just saying I didn't create this ranking list. I think Kelsey Brianna J started it, so I don't claim any ownership over this series or idea. So what I have is all of my blushes in front of me, and I'm going to talk through them from, I guess, my least favorite to my most favorite. And some of these items here are discontinued or long lost in the collection, so I will be talking about some older items here that aren't available, but I still want to talk about them because I know that I have a lot of collectors who watch me, and you probably will get something out of it too. Now, I don't have any blushes here that I hate, that are terrible, that are unusable. So I think the beginning portion of the video will more be blushes that I just don't really reach for that often. And the first one here is it's the Palette Essentielle, and it's the 160 Beige Medium. Now, I have gone back and forth on this palette for years. I've reviewed it, I've been trying it out. Sometimes I use it and I love it, and sometimes I use it and it just doesn't feel great, or doesn't look great, or doesn't melt together. I like the idea of the Palette Essentielle. I like having all of these products together, but I think the blush here is maybe a little bit too dark for me. This is the blush here, and it just looks so intense, and it's so dark. And I don't mind a dark or very opaque blush, but it almost doesn't bring enough life or vibrance. I don't know. And because it is a cream, I often use more powder blushes, especially the ones from Chanel, and just something about this I just don't reach for that often. Even when I travel, I don't even think of bringing it, because you know what it's like when you don't have a great makeup day, it kind of ruins the rest of your day. And so I don't even bring it with me because I don't know, it's something there just doesn't work for me. Something about the formula, the execution. So this is probably my least favorite, but there's also been moments in time that I've loved this. So it's very complicated. I have a very complicated relationship with this palette here. All right, next up is something older and limited edition. This is Le Tissage de Chanel. This is the Blush Duo Effect Tweed Cherry Blossom. So this series of blush here looks like the tweed that Chanel is known for on their chairs, on their suits, that beautiful quilted pattern. And this here is a very pretty color. It's just so intense. One swipe and you get a very, very intense cherry color. So you just have to be careful when you use this. Don't swirl your brush in there too quickly because you'll just get way too much color. What was nice about this tweed series is it reminds me of I don't know if I'm misremembering things or if I'm nostalgic for something that didn't exist, but I seem to recall that there was a period of time where Chanel would come out with these limited edition blushes with very extra, very beautiful packaging on a more frequent basis. I know we still get some limited edition extra blushes, but I seem to recall that there used to be more of them. And this is part of that here. The tweed to me is so iconic when it comes to Chanel, and I love this extra detailing. This here clearly has been used, but you can still see the tweed pattern in the blush here. And it just makes me nostalgic for something that I think used to happen more often. Please correct me in the comments. I know a lot of you have been collecting for longer than I have, so let me know if like 5 or 6 years ago there used to be more beautiful limited edition blushes. Let me know. Okay, now we have number 55 in Love, and I have no recollection for which collection or season this came out in, but as you can see, it's a beautiful, slightly peachy, a little orange and pink blush. I like it, but I think it's because I have so many other blushes from Chanel that fall into this category of peachy, slightly orangey, slightly pink, that kind of work a little bit better for me. It's a nice blush, but I just have so many other colors similar to this that sort of satisfy me a little bit more. So that's why it's kind of at the lower end of the blush spectrum, but it's still a nice color. Now moving on to number 330, Rose Pétillant. This is a super bright pink, a little bit of bubblegum. It's a super cool toned pink blush. I love this in the spring when I think of pink and purple eyeshadow and just flowers and just a nice cool toned rosy flush. This is part of like a limited edition packaging. They did this at the beginning of this year, I believe. It's literally the exact same packaging, except it's red instead of white. That's all that's different. They even used blushes that they already had, so it was just for people like me who bought it. But in my defense, I did not already own this color, so it was an excuse to buy a few more shades. I like this color here. I think it's just a shade that is a bit more seasonal for me. As you can tell, it's so cool tone on me. So it's not a shade that I use all year round. Like, it's not a color for me that's something that I use universally. So it's more seasonal. All right, moving on to the blush that I'm wearing today. This is the Jardin de Chanel Blush Camélia Pêche. Now this is what I'm talking about, these beautiful, delicate, wonderful blushes here. This used to have more definition. As you can see, I really enjoy my products, so it probably was more beautiful 2 years ago, but I've been enjoying it since then. You can still see the outline of a beautiful camellia garden with these beautiful flowers, and it's a nice peachy blush, but because you do have these more pinky camellias in here, it gives you just a really beautiful flush. This is what I'm wearing on my cheeks today, and I really love it. I love anything that's peach. I am definitely more partial to a peachy blush, and even though the camellia flower is a little bit more cool tone, it's not that cool. It still has a bit of warmth to it, so overall it's a warm blush, and it gives me all of my peach blush dreams. Of course, it has that beautiful soft satiny finish that Chanel blush is known for. I think the default for a Chanel blush is that soft satin, and mattes are the exception, and I really like it because it doesn't look like highlighter, it doesn't look like a disco ball. It just looks beautiful and healthy. I hope they come out with more of these. I love these that look so delicate. You almost don't want to use them, but then when you use them, you realize how beautiful they are. All right, moving on to a cream stick blush. There are very few of these in the Chanel collection, and I think that's really a shame. This here is number 20. So when I bought this, I thought that it was going to be a bronzer stick because when you look at the shade in the tube, it looks like a bronzer. However, when you apply it and when you blend it, it actually gives you a little hint more of pink. It's very faint. It's not like a pink cool tone blush like I mentioned earlier, but it's just that it has a lot of warmth to it, so it doesn't really work as a bronzing stick on me. It almost hits that blush, like a cross between a blush and a bronzer that just makes you look glowy and radiant. And there do exist a couple other colors in this formula here. I wish Chanel would invest in these and just come out with more. These came out, what, like 5, 6 years ago, something like that, and they haven't really added more. they've added in the highlighter stick, but I want more blush sticks because a cream blush, first of all, this feels so silky and smooth, and it looks so natural and seamless. I would just appreciate seeing more of these. So this one here I like, I just don't use that often because it is in that balance between a blush and a bronzer, which I like, but I have other shades that I prefer more. So this one here is like not my top favorite. All right, moving on to the Voyage De Chanel. This came out, I think, for the holiday season last year. This is described as an illuminating blush powder. This I often use as eyeshadow as well, either on its own or mixed in with something else. This is a beautiful blush. You can see the chains that are supposed to look like the chains on a handbag. There's a lot of detail here. It's beautiful. It's a nice plummy color with a hint of like gold and rust almost. What's nice about this is that this works beautifully with red and plummy burgundy cranberry eyeshadow looks. I think this is a perfect shade for that. I think it's also really nice on deeper complexions as well. And I also love that it has a nice finish. It's that satin finish, maybe a little bit more satiny than a regular Chanel blush, like maybe a hint more highlighter mixed in. You can wear a highlighter with it if you want, but you don't have to. This is a gorgeous shade, but I definitely think it's a color that's, I don't want to say seasonal, but it's one that I would wear more with those red cranberry plummy looks. Like if I'm wearing a berry lip, I'm going to pull this one here. It isn't a universal blush that I can just pull out and wear with any look. So it's still up there. I think from now on, all the blushes that I'm mentioning are all like top tier. It's more describing the scenario that I wear them in. And some of these blushes I can wear for any occasion, and some it's more for particular looks. So this one here is more of a particular look blush. Moving on to number 64, Pink Explosion. Now, regardless of the name, it's actually a little bit more subtle than the pink we talked about earlier. It gives me a little bit more of like a mauvey pink. It's not quite that intense bubblegum pink that we saw earlier. It is still very pink and cool toned, and I do wear it more with the floral spring looks, but it's a bit more subtle. It's absolutely beautiful. It has that beautiful, soft, light, satiny finish that I love. It's just not one that I reach for every single look because I am more partial to peachy blushes. Moving on to number 71, Malice. This is a beautiful, soft, peachy glow. It has that wonderful satiny glow, and it's just such a fine, delicate balance. It's peachy, not too warm. It is one of those shades that I can reach for absolutely any look. And I did buy this one with the limited edition packaging. It's the same formula, same shade, just, you know, special red packaging for people like me. As you can see, it's not too warm. Like there is a bit of pink, a bit of cool in it. So if you are sort of like dipping your toes into warmer blushes, I think 71 Malice might be a good idea for you. Because moving on, I do have some that are very warm, practically just orange, which I love, as you can see. But if you want something a bit more subtle, Malice is for you. Moving on to our second tweed blush. This is number 20, Tweed Coral. So as you can see, it's a coral, but it's actually quite soft and subtle. I really wish this one was still available. If for some reason it's still available in your region, I would recommend getting it because it is that soft coral that's not too orange, not too pink, just like almost like your cheek, but better. One thing I've noticed though with the tweed formula is that the satin finish is a bit more sparkly. It's not that just very subtle glow. You do notice a bit more sparkle in it. Just be warned in case it's still available. But for me, it's still very much like my cheek, but better. And I really love it. Maybe one day they'll come out with more of these, I would love to see a whole series of tweed blushes. That would be amazing. Okay, now we're on to 320 Rouge Profond. Now, this is a red blush. I don't know how else to describe it. It is exactly that. It has that soft satiny finish, but it's very subtle. You do see it in the pan here and also when you apply it, but it's not going to be as glowy as some other colors here. So this is a shade that's really great for deeper, darker skin tones. If you have a complexion like me, you can still wear it. You just have to go in very, very lightly because you get so much opacity when you just dip your brush in. It does give you such a beautiful, bright, enlivened complexion, which might sound contradictory because it is so dark and so intense, but just a little bit of color just gives you that like whoosh, that like natural pinched flush of red and health to your cheeks. So it's really good. It's just a little bit more work. If I'm in a rush or in a hurry, I do not reach for this because if you have the habit of just like swirling in a few times, you are in for some work afterwards to blend this out. So just go in very lightly and just blend and blend. So speaking of this type of super intense saturated color, we have number 380, So Close. And this is the most bright tangerine blush color I can think of. If you are new to coral or peachy blushes, this one is not for the faint of heart. It is a pure tangerine color and it has more of a matte finish. I don't think it has much of a satin finish. So the fact that it's so opaque and the fact that it's a bit more matte make it so that you do have to blend it a little bit more, and it's just so intense. Like this is the color right here that you get on your cheek. I love a warm look. I love a warm complexion, so this is a color for me, but you do have to blend it out and just work with it a little bit. However, if you like warm makeup looks, if you have a warm complexion, this is very flattering. Okay, moving on to the Voyage De Chanel. Now, I could say that I don't know what happened to this blush here, but I know exactly what happened. I used it a whole lot. Wow, it looks terrible. It used to look so beautiful. It used to look so pristine, but then I kept using it. So originally there were two blushes, one warm, one cool, a bronzer and a highlighter, and they all had different names of different cities, invoking travel, and I have used it. I have enjoyed it a lot. As you can tell, when you swirl it all together, it just gives you a really beautiful flush. Initially, I tried to just use one shade at a time, but that kind of proved difficult, so I just kept dipping in, and this is what it ended up with. You get my perfect default blush, a nice glowy peach color, and I still use it, although every time I open it up, I'm like, wow, what have I done here? But you know, at least I enjoy my products. Before we go any further, I totally forgot about these two items here. This is part of the now defunct Rouge Coco lip blush line. These were supposed to be a multi-use product. I have the shades 420 and 414. 420 is the more deep plummy one and 414 is the lighter peach color. So I remember the advertising for this. It's supposed to be like a multi-use, multi-purpose color. And it's a very interesting or a little bit weird finish. It's like a gloss, but a tint at the same time. This I used, but I didn't really love. I found them a little bit hard to work with. It is liquid. I found it a bit sticky. So these would definitely be at like the beginning of the video, like towards the bottom of the list. These are not blushes that I reach for. Do you remember these? Did you get these when these came out? Because I totally forgot about them, but let me know if you picked these up when these came out. Now, moving on to one of my all-time favorite blush shades, period. This is number 80, Jersey. This is your cheek, but better. It is that wonderful combination between a blush and a bronzer, and you can't really tell where the color ends or begins. It is seamless, and it just enhances your skin and glow. It is wonderful. I think they have discontinued this in certain parts of the world, which I think is a travesty to cheeks everywhere. This is a beautiful color, and it has the most beautiful, subtle, satiny finish. This has always been in my top favorites and probably will be for a very long time. Moving on to my newest acquisition, this is number 608 Ombre, and this is part of the fall release. So initially when I bought this online, I was concerned, and also when I swatched it at first, because it looks very cool toned. It looks almost like a hint of gray, but it is that Your Cheek but better. The only difference is this one here is matte. It doesn't have a soft satiny finish, so if you want to add highlighter, you totally can, but it really is Your Cheek but better, slightly cool, slightly neutral. I don't think it's going to be for everyone, because if you have deeper, darker skin tone, it's going to be too light, quite frankly, which is a shame. I wish they'd come out with a few other blush colors with the fall release to be more inclusive. But if this does work for you, it really is just like a very easy to use in the sense that it's pretty neutral with like a hint of more cool tone leaning, but it's a very easy to use blush. Now moving on to number 82 Reflex, which is, as always, in that warm, peachy, definitely very warm. Like, you definitely see more gold in this than some of the other formulas we've seen, and it has that beautiful satin finish. If you want something that's more matte, this may not be for you, but I like that combination of soft satin finish because you get to skip highlighter. And when you wear this, depending on the angle, you do see more of that gold reflection. I think calling it Reflex is a really good name. This shade I think has been around for a while. It's kind of one of those, in my opinion, like a cult classic. If it's still available in your region, I would encourage you to get this if you like the more warm blushes with like a hint of soft satin finish. Okay, we are down to the wire. We are down to my top 3 picks. Okay, I think from here out, the last 3 are kind of interchangeable in my opinion. So the first one here is the Fleur de Pont Duo. This is a blush and highlighter duo that came out in this spring, and even though I've only owned it for a few months, as you can see, it's been very well loved. So you have the blush on one side and the highlighter on the other. A lot of people, what they do is they go into the blush first and then they apply the highlighter over top. That's not what I do. I just take my brush and just swirl it around, get both products, and then apply to give a very luminous, glowy, lit from within blush. That is my preferred method of wearing it, but if you want to be more traditional, go into the blush first and then highlighter second. It's a beautiful peachy, pinky, coral blush, so flattering, so easy to wear. If you are a bit hesitant with all the highlighter, just go into the blush and highlighter just very lightly over top. I think it's a gorgeous shade. This is the type of product that Chanel reminds me of. Like earlier in the video when I mentioned these limited edition delicate blushes that I'm nostalgic for, this is the type of product that I mean. Not only is it extra in the packaging, but it's such a wonderful shade as well. If this is somehow still available in your region, I would encourage you to get it because it's just so beautiful. If you've been watching my channel for a period of time, you may have been wondering where this blush was going to be. This is number 72, Rose Inicial. As you can see, it's so well loved that I've actually hit pan. I'm not even certain I can get a proper swatch for you. I'm gonna go ahead and dig and see if I can get one. But it's really a perfect light peachy color that's a little bit pink leaning depending on how much I can swatch here, but it's that shade that is universally flattering. It goes with any makeup look I do. Very warm, very cool, a smoky eye, a bold red lip. It doesn't really matter what I do. This shade here, 72, goes with everything. I love these types of blushes that it's a no-brainer. I don't have to do some calculations and figure out what I'm wearing and if my blush is going to work with it or not. This is just my go-to, and it has been for so long, and that is exactly why I've managed to hit pan, which I think is very impressive considering my collection. Okay, so we have one final blush here to talk about. This is number 370 Elegance. This is a warm, satiny Your Cheek But Better. It's more subtle than Jersey. I think Jersey is more of a bronzer shade, and it's much warmer than Ombre. This color here, it's kind of a cousin to Ombre, but warmer, and has that beautiful satin finish. Elegance is Your Cheek But Better. It's very easy to use. You can go ahead and skip highlighter if you're wearing this color here. And the warmth in this is not orange, it's not as much gold, it's just a more subtle warm. So if you want something that's a bit more subtle and doesn't look like you're wearing a blush color, just that your cheek just looks so lovely and youthful and glowy, Elegance is for you. Okay, that is my roundup. I don't think I've forgotten anything. I might have. I hopefully didn't. If I forgot something, maybe I'll include it at some point in the video here. I've gone through so much makeup remover and so many swatches here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new to my channel, or if you've been watching my channel for a while and for some reason you haven't yet subscribed, I highly encourage you to subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. That is a great way to encourage my videos and my channel. Leave a comment also letting me know what are your favorite Chanel blushes. Did you see any in today's video that were your favorite? I would love to hear from you. And let me know in the comments what else I should rank. What other products do you want me to talk about and list off and swatch for you? On that note, I think this is all I have for you guys for today. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.